Hold it. You haven't seen me. You haven't heard anything. You'll have to walk away mad.
I guarantee you. Let me tell you a little bit about the man beside me before we get too far into the Q&A. Some things that you should know about Mr. Ernest Borgnine.
Tell him about the 5 wives.
We already know about the 5 wives now. But did you know he was born in 1917? That's when World War I was on. This man has a lot of life experience. Sorry? He served in the Navy for 10 years, including during World War II. This man is a very proud veteran. He's from Hamden, Connecticut. He is the son of Italian immigrant parents. His mother was a dancer. And she, a dancer. The Wikipedia said she was.
My mother happened to be the daughter of a Count Boselli, who was the financial advisor to Victor Emmanuel, the King of Italy. And they lived very, very nicely, and my mother was a countess, actually. And which makes me a royal blood, too. Count, no count. But, no, she wasn't a dancer. She loved everything that had to do with pictures and God knows the theater and everything else. And I remember as a boy going to the La Scala with her in Italy and watching all the operas and everything else. It was just wonderful. It was a great childhood, and then we came into Depression, 1929. And if you've never been through a depression, which we're going through right now, believe it or not, in a very easy way. But in those days, we used to call victory gardens and everything else because we grew our own vegetables, we grew everything. And we did everything, and we had a lot of fun doing it, believe it or not, in those old days. Whereas everybody today, you know, the only thing that they know is get on the internet or get in front of a television set, and that's it, that's what you live for. It's the greatest thing in the world. I don't find kids out there hustling around out there in the woods anymore. Hey, one thing, we used to go out there as Boy Scouts and make campfires and, you know, and I'll never forget, I was the assistant scoutmaster in a troop out there in Hamden, Connecticut. And I said, fellas, we've got to have, they're all Italian boys, and we've got to have more recruits in our, you know what? So they went out and got a bunch of Italian Americans, you know? And I said, okay, we're going to go on a 14-mile hike and everything else. So we went on the hike and started the fires and everything else. And these kids are pulling out this polite, you know, to eat the sandwiches and everything else. And these American boys have got canned beans. And they said, well, what do we do with the canned beans? The kid said, put them in the fire, put them in the fire. Little did they know that it explode. The Italians got their revenge. Go ahead.
So, how did you go from serving in the Navy to a career in acting? How did that happen?
I wrote a book called Ernie. It's not really the title that I wanted. The title that I wanted was taken from I was walking along 10th Avenue one day, and I'm saying to myself as a broken down actor, I said, why? Why did I ever get into this business? Because I'll tell you how I got into the business. After World War II, I got out of the service, and then I went home, and after a couple of weeks, my mother said, well, one of those kind of wells that said, you're going to hang around all the time, what are you going to do? So I started looking for work, and I noticed all these fellas walking into these factories. And I said to myself, do I want to after 10 years in the Navy, and I'm out there in the open, you know, and everything is just beautiful, you know what I mean? I'm a destroyer, and bam. And I said, I can't lock myself up in a prison like that. That's worse than going to jail. So I'd take my lunch and I'd go to the park, I'd go to see a movie or something like that, and come on home and you find anything? No, not yet. And one day I went home and I said, I'm going back into the service. And out of a clear blue sky, my mother said to me, have you ever thought of becoming an actor? She says, you always like to make a damn fool of yourself in front of people. Why don't you give it a try? And I said, looked up and I said, Mom, that's what I'm going to be. Now, the only reason I think she ever said that was because of the fact that she wanted to be an actress, but because of being a royal blood and everything else, they just frowned upon by anybody that, you know, belongs to royal blood to be on the stage. And so she took it out on me. And 10 years later, what the hell was her name? The gallant man, that beautiful lady. She married the Prince of Rainier. Grace Kelly. Yeah. 10 years later, Grace Kelly is handing me an Oscar. Don't ask me how.
And that was in 1955. You won the Academy Award Best Actor. You beat out Frank Sinatra, Spencer Tracy, some pretty heavy hitters. Tell us about that night. How did it feel?
I was out there in one of the choice seats, I suppose, because they, you know, I was supposed to be up there for the Academy. And I'm looking over there and I see Jimmy Cagney and I see Burt Lancaster and a whole bunch of people, Gary Cooper, and Clark Gable was there, and I took a picture with him. And oh God, it was just wonderful. And suddenly my wife was going, she called her name. She called her name. And you won. I couldn't believe it. I didn't have any. I had no idea I was going to win. Because of the fact that it was just a little tiny picture, 90 minutes long, and here I'm up against guys like Spencer Tracy, and Frank Sinatra, and Jimmy Cagney, and James Dean, who had just passed away. I figured he's going to win because of, you know, hey. But I won, and that was all there was to it. And I got up there and I said, thank you very much, thanks Mom and Pop, and I walked off. The happiest guy in the world, of course. And I still have my Oscar right up above my television set. I went every year when they had the Oscars. I tried to vote myself. I just put the Oscar down there and said, I got mine, go ahead. That's what life is all about, isn't it? Absolutely.
And then, of course, in the 60s, you went on to do McHale's Navy. But I saw an interview where you mentioned that you weren't so sure about it at first. At first, you turned the show down. Is that correct?
That's correct. For the simple reason that, you know, I was into motion pictures, and I was a big motion picture actor now, you know. And my agent called me up and he said, listen, we got a thing called McHale's Navy. And he told me, explained about the PT boats and how I love the water and everything else. And I said, well, I said, it sounds fine, but I said, hell, I'm a motion picture actor now, and I'm going to stick with motion pictures. Oh, so well, if you change your mind, you know, call us right away because we'd like to get started. Yes, sir. So the next morning, as the good Lord would have it, came a knock on the door. There's a kid selling chocolate bars. And he said, would you like to buy some? I said, sure, how much are they? And I'm reaching for the money. And he looked up at me and he said, mister, he said, you look awfully familiar, what's your name? I said, my name is James Ernest. He said, no, he does Gunsmoke. I said, no, I'm only kidding you. I said, my name is really Richard Boone. He said, no, he does have gun will travel. I said, son of a gun. guy knows them all. I'll tell him my name and he'll know. Sure enough, I said, my name is Ernest Borgnine. Zilch. Nothing. He said, I know I've seen you. I said, thank you very much, son. Paid him, took the chocolate bar, set it down. So long, kid. And I closed the door and called up my agent. I said, that part's still open? And he said, yes. What changed your mind? I said, none of your goddamn business. But the story goes on. The Navy wouldn't have anything to do with this. You know, oh, they said, no, this is not the Navy. My God, you're insulting the Navy. You're this, you're that. And, you know, hey, so we went on our merry way. What the hell we care? We did, and everybody was saying, hey, boy, this is a great show. We love it, and oh, this is great. One day, I get a call to go to the Pentagon to meet the Secretary of the Navy. Oh, I went. And I'm sitting down there in his private quarters in the Pentagon, and these guys live it up, boy. Believe me, we pay good taxes. Wow. Anyway, we're sitting down, and these guys are serving us and everything else. And finally I said, Mr. Secretary, I said, this is all wonderful. I said, I thank you very much, but why? Well, what's the big occasion? He says, you're the greatest recruiter we've ever had in the Navy. I was putting in people, everybody wanted to join McHale's Navy. And I actually found a few guys that actually were officers in the service that actually joined because of McHale's Navy. So you can see, we made an impression after all. Go ahead.
And then going into the 70s, I mean, there's so many films, and I could sit here and list them off, and, you know, it would be 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and we'd be all hungry. So why don't you give us a couple highlights?
I haven't had breakfast yet. Believe it or not. Go ahead.
What are some of your favorite film projects that you've done?
Every one of them. You know, people say, what's your best picture? I have no best picture. It's like, you know, you work on a picture. And I've always kind of put it like a woman having a child. You're going to love that picture. And you get to the point where, hey man, you're giving birth to something and you're showing people exactly what you can do in something else. And I remember one time I was making Emperor of the North. I used to go home at night and say to my wife, am I really that bad? Am I really that kind of a dirty person that killed people with a hammer? And what could possibly be coming out of me? She said, don't worry about it. Everything's going to be fine. You're just acting. I said, oh, boy. You kind of wonder sometimes. But, you know, hey, it happens and that's the way it is. And so, that's it. What else you want to know?
Well, we've got a lot of horror fans here today, of course. And,
oh, you want questions too?
Let's segue into some questions in a moment, but why don't you tell us a little bit about working on Devil's Reign, because you were under some extensive makeup, and there's whole scenes in that movie where it looks like you spent days of people just melting on set. Were you wearing hip waders underneath your costume?
I tell you, that was really something. First of all, we had a director from England, and he used to wander off into the, we were made the picture in Mexico with mafia money. Everybody know what the mafia is? We made it with their money. And they still owe me about $25,000. Anyway, this fellow used to wander off for the ideas, and we found out that he was shooting himself a little bit in the arm too, you know? And he'd come up with these crazy ideas and stuff, you know? But hey, he was making the picture. Hey, what are you going to do? He's the director. And so we're out there in the middle of nowhere, and these people are dying, and then people are getting killed, and, you know, in the picture, don't get me wrong. And finally, you know, we come to the end, and I said, well, we got something, but I said, what do we got? You know? And it came out Devil's Rain. And believe me, the son of a gun turned out to be a pretty good picture. I didn't realize it at first, but it turned out pretty good. And I played a pretty damn good devil, didn't I?
How do you prepare for a role playing the devil?
How do I compare?
No, prepare.
Oh, prepare. Easy, you read the part.
Did you keep that robe in devil horns?
No, I didn't. No, I turned everything in.
Why don't we take some questions from the audience now? I know we've got them. You, sir.
Go ahead, you put up your hand first. Go.
And just let me, after you ask a question, let me repeat it so everyone can hear.
Sure. Can you tell us a little bit about the experience of Escape from New York, working with John Carpenter and Kurt Russell?
The question is, can you please tell us about working with John Carpenter on Escape from New York?
John Carpenter telephoned me one day. He said, listen, he said, I'm going to shoot a picture. And he said, and I got a part for you, and can I talk to you? And I said, sure. So we went over there to the smokehouse and right across the street from the what the devil is it? Anyway, one of the studios. And we're sitting there, and he said, I got this part for you and everything, and I read the script. And I said, yeah, I don't want to play a cabbie. I said, hell, I could do a cabbie like with my eyes closed. I said, the part that I had in mind was, you know, something like Lee Van Cleef, you know. They don't know, he says, I've already given it to Lee Van Cleef. I want to play the warden. And I said, oh, golly. And John is a wonderful guy, Carpenter, and I said, okay, I'll play it for you. He said, but I wrote it especially for you. I said, okay. So we went ahead and did it. I had a wonderful time with it. And it was the easiest thing in the world, you know, hey, throwing bombs and everything else, and, you know, doing all those crazy things. And I'll never forget when we went to see the motion picture the first time was in the Actors Studio in Hollywood. And my wife and I sat down at the very top, and all the whole place was just loaded down with people and actors, you know, and watching the picture. And there was not one thing said until it showed where I came down the road and pow, the car broke apart, and there I was, dead. And everybody went, oh. They were sorry that I had passed away. I said, my God, what else can I possibly do? This is wonderful. So it turned out to be pretty good after all, so that's it.
I'd say there's a few fans of that movie here. That's a good segue, follow the taxi driver shirt. Let's take a question from him.
Can you tell us about your experiences working on The Wild Bunch?
All right, it's time to talk about The Wild Bunch, one of my favorite films.
Wild Bunch. We were down in Mexico. I tell you, I had a broken foot, believe it or not. I started the whole picture on a broken foot. And if you see me at the very beginning, you probably see a little limp. And if you notice my foot, it's just one left foot is bigger than the next one. And the left one was bigger than the right one. And I think the time to really spot it is when I reached down to help a woman whose packages had fallen. Remember when we were first coming into town and the packages had fallen, and I reached down and I helped her and walk over and give it to her. And that's when you'll notice the limp. Other than that, everything was fine. I had a walking crutch and we did it. Bam, bam, bam. Thank you, ma'am. And I did the picture. It was the most enervating picture I've ever been in my life. And Peckinpah was the kind of a fella that used to leave it up to the actors. He'd explain what he wanted, and we did it. Because he felt that, hey man, I'm working with pros. And this was what life is all about in motion pictures. When you're working in front of a camera and everything else, you expect other people to be professional as well. And this is the same way in anything else in life. When you're working with somebody, you say, hey man, I'm working with a professional. That's what life was all about. But we had a ball doing it. And Ben Johnson, and God, you couldn't ask for anybody better than Bill Holden and Warren Oates. Oh, the best. They were the best. And it was a marvelous picture, and we were very proud of it, believe it or not. Yeah.
And how did you break your foot?
I made a picture one time with Jim Brown, just before I made the Wild Bunch. I was making a picture with Jim Brown, the football star, and he was up there and he was trying to get his mood. In the middle of the night, you couldn't see the guy. In the middle of the night, he said, I gotta get the mood. Mood hell, I said, how many times we're gonna run up and down this thing over here, you know, and get on board the ship? We were working on a ship, and I stumbled on a piece of pipe or something and broke the foot. And so that's the way I had to go to. They said, well, that's all right. We'll put a walking crutch on it. Okay, fine. Walking crutch. After about 3 weeks, I took it off, and that was it. We went on. But it was easy, and we made the picture.
Now, Sam Peckinpah had quite a reputation as a rabble-rouser, a guy who could be very difficult to work with. What was your experience like working with him as a director?
He was nothing of the sort. Don't you believe it? Anybody tells you he was a rabble-rouser, that's a lie. He was the gentlest man you've ever seen in your life. And the nicest man you'd ever want to meet in your life. And he was very quiet, never said too much, you know. He enjoyed having his little pipe and stuff like that on a weekend. But hey, listen, to each his own. What the hell? I don't look at anybody else and say, oh my God, I shouldn't be doing that. No, I shouldn't. But hey, for somebody else, that's what they want to do. That's what they're going to do, whether you like it or not. Am I right? There it is. So you live and let live. That's the idea. Live and let live, and just enjoy yourself and enjoy people around you. You'd be surprised how far you can go in this world. I do. And that's the way I act, and that's the way I am. What the hell? That's what it's all about, isn't it?
Heck yeah.
Go ahead. That's one over there.
Right there.
Okay, can you tell me about working on Deadly Blessing and the accident that happened on the set?
The question is about working on Deadly Blessing and in particular the accident that happened on the set.
Blessing. I make that picture.
This fellow is an expert on Deadly Blessing. I was speaking to him earlier. Maybe
You have to be one of those.
bring us up to speed. Bring us up to speed.
Okay, well it was filmed in Waxahachie back in 1980. At
It was filmed in Texas in 1980.
Waxahachie.
Oh, this is the one where I'm whipping everybody.
Yes.
I was playing a preacher who, kind of a preacher who believed in, by God, you'll do as I say or else. And I went around whipping everybody, and there was nobody hurt that I know of, but it turned out to be pretty good. I forgot my name.
There's nothing wrong with that. You've got hundreds of credits on your resume.
The horse.
204. 204 pictures.
It was the horse and buggy. Remember the horse and buggy?
There was a horse and buggy incident. Do you recall that?
No, I don't.
Okay.
No worries. I, for one, would have loved to see you in the role of Indiana Jones instead of Harrison Ford. I know those kind of whips go. I think that would have been fantastic.
So would I. I would like to make that money. You know, it's something, as an actor, they say, oh my God, he's a star. God, that's not true. Not all of us make millions. You're really out there hustling all the time, believe me. Because of the fact that there are only a few out there, so-called stars, you know, that make these millions of dollars and everything else. That's wonderful. And some of them are worth it, believe me. But others, you know, leave you kind of cold. And I always had to struggle for mine. I had to go from agent to agent to agent to agent. And finally I ended up with a woman. We have no deal between us, no nothing, just a handshake. And I remember one time I was supposed to play, they wanted me to play the Pope in, what the devil was it called? Anyway, Anthony Quinn played the part. And they wanted me to play the Pope. And I would have gladly played, but my agent said, oh, yes, of course, you want Ernest Borgnine. Fine, you'll have to take 6 others with you. 6 others what? 6 other actors. I don't want 6 other actors. All I want is Ernest Borgnine. You see the machinations in this business? They need to say, you want Ernest? Oh, God, the agent. Anytime you can make more money, draw it out of them poor producers, that's the way it goes. And so you're left still over there, and the guy says to me later, he said, where the hell were you? I said, I was right here. He said, nobody told you? Nobody told me a thing about they wanted me to be the Pope and everything else. And he said, if ever I see Anthony Quinn, he says, I'll kill him. Because he didn't like him, you know? But that's the way the machinations are in this business. It's terrible. It's dog eat dog, and it's who you know and what actors, what agents you got that are powerful enough to say, all right, you take 6 men or else. And that's it. And they got you right by the throat, and you don't know a thing about it. I'm letting you in on a little something that I shouldn't be saying, but it's true. It's a lie. That's a hustle.
I think that begs, sir, I'll get you in one moment. I think that begs the question, why do you continue to act? Why do you love it?
Well, if you like something that you're doing, wouldn't you?
Absolutely. So you,
That's the way I feel. I mean, if I can find something that's good, and they're willing to take me, and then I'm willing to go, hey man, we make it, you know? I feel like right now I'm in the business of putting back everything that I've been given. And if I can help somebody along the line, this is what it's all about. If I can help you as ordinary people and everything else that are working at ordinary jobs, and we become good friends simply because hey man, I'm working too. And it's, hey, brother to brother, that's what it's all about. And you can live this kind of life. Isn't it nice? Makes it better. Sure. Isn't that true? Go ahead.
I want to ask you about one of my favorite rules that we've done is the Vikings. We play Kirk Douglas's father. That looks like a really fun shoot, and you have one of my favorite death scenes where you jump into a pit of wolves.
Redner!
That sounds really fun to me.
I tell you, I had a lot of fun with that. And I don't know, it's just, it's something that you just, I don't know why, but I feel like I'm just acclimated to these goddamn things, you know what I mean? I played cowboys and I got away with it because I couldn't ride a horse at the beginning. I'll never forget the first time I ever got on a horse. And my director looked at me and said, "You ride?" I said, "Yes, sir." You never say no. I mean, after all, it's your livelihood. And he said, "All right, I want you to go up there," and that fellow's standing. And he said, "And when I drop the handkerchief, come down here and say your lines and go off the scene." "Yes, sir." So I took the horse and went up this. We were up there in Lone Pine, California. And so I got up to the top, you know, and I turned the horse around. And what had been a nice, gentle slope suddenly became this way. Straight down. I must have gotten real green because the wrangler up there, the horse wrangler, he said, "Ernie, what's the matter?" I said, hey, my God, what are you doing here?" He said, "Oh, no, don't worry about that. Just, I'll tell you what, you give the horse his head. And if he stumbles a little bit, just keep his head up, that's all. Just keep his head up and don't worry, he knows exactly where he's going to go." And what the hell do I know about a horse? So I went down there, bam, and I had that horse's head in my lap all the way. I jumped off, you know, and I said, "Take cover, men," and boom, went out and nearly faded. And that Lee Marvin is always going, "Son of a gun." He always used to do that in every picture we made. You rat.
You were very good friends with Lee Marvin, correct?
Oh, we were buddies. We were buddies. He was one hell of a guy, I tell you. He was an ex-Marine he was an ex-Marine. He was a hell of an actor and a hell of a great guy and a hell of a drinker. He could drink you under the table and then some. But I'll never forget, one day we were ready to start the picture in England called The Dirty Dozen. And we finished the scene, rehearsing, and so the director said, "All right, let's bring in so-and-so," and he said, yeah, bring in a guy. And everybody went silent, never said a word. We said it. And Bob Aldrich, the director, said, "Lee, can I talk to you in my office for a moment, please?" "Sure." Walked to his office, quiet. Came out 2 minutes later, and you never saw a more sober man in your life. He was sober from then on. Never touched a drink, and he was absolutely Lee Marvin in that Dirty Dozen. I had to recall, oh yeah, I was standing up against because it was cold in England, you know what I mean? And we were having the sunshine one day, and we're up against a brick wall, and he and I are talking. And he had just come back after winning the Academy Award for that, where he played on that horse, you know? And we were talking back and forth. Some fella came by, one of the actors. He said, "I wonder what 2 Academy Award winners have to say to each other." And without missing a beat, he said, "You'll never know." I'm glad I'm talking. That was the matter. Any more?
Let's go right to the back there. See a fellow right there.
I gotta ask, you mentioned the Victory Gardens. What was your favorite vegetable there?
What was your favorite vegetable in the Victory Gardens?
My dad used to have the biggest damn tomatoes you ever saw in your life. He had yellow ones and red ones. I mean, you could go home and make a meal out of just one tomato. It was marvelous. And of course, we grew our own celery and corn and everything else. But it's really a wonderful thing. I've never seen those tomatoes. I mean, this big, huge things. You know what I mean? It was wonderful, and golly, I think back every now and then about these wonderful days that I had when I was a youngster. Believe me, it keeps you young again, you know, just thinking about it. A lot of people say to me, "Oh, you're not 95." But inwardly, I can tell you one thing, I am, because I feel it. But on the outside, like I got news this morning, I don't know that you told him.
Let's tell him. He won an Outstanding Achievement Award today. We just found out from the phone.
Listen to this is crazy. This is crazy. This young man, who I call a genius, his name is Ilya Petredis. I'll tell you stories about it. Anyway, he wrote me a letter and said, if there's anybody in this world that can do it, he said, you can. And he said, I want you for my picture. And this is what he wrote. He wrote a picture just on the statement of the man who shook the hand of Vincent Fernandez. Now, Vincent Fernandez is a singer in Mexico. Viva Mexico today! It's Cinco de Mayo. Anyway, he wrote this thing just on a fellow said, Vincent Fernandez. I know that name, yeah. Yeah, I remember shaking his hand one time. He put together an entire script just from a guy shaking a hand to Vincent Fernandez. And put it together and said, I want you to play this part. The man who shook the hand. And I said, how can I do this, you know? We did it. And right outside there is a man, Barry Corbin, who's out there signing autographs today. He was my protagonist in the picture opposite me. And believe me, he did a magnificent job. And then, first thing you know, we took it out to the film festival in Newport, California. And they said this morning, Ernest Borgnine won the Outstanding Achievement Award as an actor. So you can imagine. But I'll tell you something about Ilya. Beautiful man. Genius right from the word go. And one day he said to me, Ernie, he said, can I talk to you in your dressing room? I said, yes, of course. So we walked into my dressing room and we sat down and I said, what is it, Ilya? He said, will you marry me? I said, I'm sorry, but I'm already taken. But I'll be very happy to, think about it. And he said, no. He said, you don't understand. He said, you know my girl. And of course, I met his girlfriend. He said, I want you to marry us. I said, for heaven's sakes, how do you do that? He said, easy. He said, we go up to Washington, the state of Washington, and we go in there and we set all the decorations. Hey, man, I went up there and every time I see him, I said, how's the marriage coming? Great, it took good. And I played a preacher. I married the two of them. And I tell you, it was wonderful. And now this morning I get news, the outstanding actor, oh, big deal. But you're only as good as your last picture, remember that. And that's the way I always work in life. You're only as good as the last one, because a lot of people keep taking vows for that last one that they made, and hey, it gets to be stale after a while. Because how good are they after that? That's what counts. How good are they after that? Any more questions? Yes, we got lots of
Tons of questions. Let's go right here.
Marty, tell us about Marty. How
Marty.
I was making a picture called Veracruz in Mexico with Burt Lancaster and Gary Cooper. And my old director from television came down to see what he could do, because he had always been working in television inside the studio, and he needed to get some ideas of how to work outside of the studio, in other words, out in the open. And you'd be surprised, there's a big difference. And a lot of people say, oh, I can make a Western, and suddenly find themselves in a hole there where they can't get out of because they don't know how to shoot with a camera, you know, to show the background. That easy. So he came down there and he's got this script of Marty under his arm, and Bob Aldrich, who was the director, said, may I read it? He should. So he read it. A couple of weeks later at a party, they were all sitting down, and then somebody said, tell me, you've read the script, who in your mind would play that part of Marty? I said, you know, I know of only one fellow. He said, that's Ernest Borgnine. Are you kidding? He's a killer. For God's sakes, all he does is go around killing people. You know, he's a madman. He's terrible. He says, don't kid yourself. This guy's an actor. So they called me up. And they said, we want you to play this part of Marty. I said, well, thank you very much, sir. I said, I'll play any part you like. He said, you don't understand. We want you to play the lead. And I looked at him and I said, sir, I said, I'll give you 110%. Thank you very much. Now I have to prove myself in front of Patty Chayefsky, the writer, and Delbert Mann, the director. They flew up to Lone Pine, California, where I was then making a picture called That Day at Black Rock, and with Spencer Tracy. And I'm leaving one day to go, you know, talk to go down there and test for the part. And he said, Spencer said, hey, where you going? If anybody leaves here early, it's me, I'm the star here. He was kidding, of course. And I said, told him the story, and he said, well, what's it all about? I told him. And he said, geez, it sounds good. By golly, well, you gotta go, don't worry about it, you'll get it. I said, okay. I went down, and the whole thing that we did was another story, but I came back the next morning and I got a big smile on my face. And he said, you got the part, huh? Yes, sir. Glad and bad. Okay, that's wonderful. The next year I beat him out for an Academy Award. Little did we realize that they were only going to make half the picture. They only wanted to make half the picture, put it on the shelf and forget about it because they wanted to use it as a tax loss. They wanted to lose money. And the man said, no. He said, you've got to finish the picture, show it one time, and then you can take your tax loss. And I said, okay. I made the whole picture for $5,000. Period. See where this millionaires come from? They become millionaires, you don't. Anyway, I would have done it for nothing because after all, it was my first starring role. And the rest is history. That's it. Anybody else? Go right there.
On your movie with the side adventure, what was it like working with an all-star cast?
The question is, what was it like working on the Side Adventure, a film that had a big ensemble cast?
The only pain in the ass was Shelley Winter. She'd come up with more stuff, I swear to God. She got, God almighty, you want to kill her. It was bad enough just walking in, you know, and doing all this stuff, and the fumes every day and everything else. But she always said, oh, Lord, God, shut up! We had a ball, we really did. We had a nice time, and it shows.
It looked like a fun picture.
Mr. What's his name, the guy that played the preacher? Gene Hackman. He had just won the Academy Award for The Connection, French Connection. And this was his first picture after that. And, you know, in French Connection, they had worked every day bringing up their own talks and everything else, you know, what they have the lines to say and everything else. And so when you came to this picture of ours, we were all out there and we're starting to run lines, you know, back and forth and doing this and that. And we're waiting for his line. And he turned to me and he said, are we supposed to know these lines? And I said, that's the general idea. He never spoke to me again. Now, you know, but still a nice guy. What the hell, eh? You live and learn in this world. Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about Airwolf.
The Airwolf question.
We'd still be working on that thing if the boy had taken care of himself, but he was a wonderful actor. He really was, and I guess he's still working at it. But he was the kind of a fellow that would look at a piece of paper like that, and script, and okay, let's shoot it. And I'd have to go and pound, you know, just get everything into my head before I could ever imagine saying, you know, a line. And he just looks at it, okay, shoot it. It was amazing. And for this, you know, I read a couple of actors like that, but with this young man, he just thought that it was the easiest thing in the world to steal the money. And he took the drinking and everything else, and the first thing you know, people lost interest in the picture, and the first thing you know, we were going down the drain. And they dropped us, and that was it. Unfortunately, because we could still be shooting it. It was that kind of a, it was that good a picture, I thought. That good a series, yeah.
Every kid who grew up in the 80s wanted to have an Airwolf. They wanted to hang them.
Oh, yeah. Well, we got to learn how to drive those things, and I mean, it was the easiest thing in the world. All your four extremities, your arms and legs are just working like crazy all the time, and you're flying a helicopter. And I flew with a buddy of mine clean across the country many times, and it was a lot of fun, but it's flying. What you're doing, and you look at it and you say, it'll never work. It'll never work, but you're up there flying. But it's a hell of an experience, I'll tell you.
I think as we're getting to the end of this, we should come right up to now. I mean, you were nominated in 2009 for your role in the very last episode of ER for an Emmy. I mean, you're still out there going hard at it. I mean, you were in red as the records keeper.
Well, you know, they call you, and then it's easy. You just get up there and you say, oh, yes, a few lines, you know, boom, 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 and that's it. Play the nice guy, and first thing you know, you just, oh, yeah, Jesus, you're a good actor.
I can ride a horse.
There you go. You ride a horse, you can ride anything, you know what I mean? I've been in submarines, I've been in helicopters, I've been in airplanes, you name it, we did. But that's the exciting part of acting. You're not doing the same thing every day. Today you're a pilot, the next day you're this, you're that, and believe me, it's wonderful because your life is changing all the time. And you're not just a humdrum thing working on the stage doing that same part every day. Sure, you created something, But after a while, it gets to the point where you're going crazy because you're reciting nothing but lines after line after line, the same day, every day. And you say to yourself, what the hell am I accomplishing? You're making money, sure. You're working, sure. But you're not getting the gist of what the hell really an actor should be doing. And this is fun. This is where it's all, being on a horse, oh my God. I love a horse. I love going like a bat out of hell, and after chasing and bam, 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 and kill the Indians and kill everybody.
I bet most of you haven't heard of an hour-long documentary called Ernest Borgnine Rides the Bus, or On the Bus, I think it's called. But if you haven't, go to a website called Vimeo and just search for it. It's on there. It's fantastic. And what it is in the 90s, this man here decided he would buy a cruising bus, like the type rock bands drive around in, and he would go see the country. And this is a documentary about him going across America and just visiting places and people and going to breweries and factories. And it really, really makes you understand what kind of a down-to-earth fellow that Ernest Borgnine is. And I think it's one of the most fantastic things to do that. And I gotta know, your bus was called the Sun Bum. Do you still have it?
No, at 89 I said, I better call it a day. Because, there are so many wild people out there in this world who would just love to be ran by a bus. And oh my God, look who's driving it. And the first thing you know, you get into all kinds of trouble. And I'm not looking for trouble, believe me, all I want is love. And hey, that's what life is all about. So I sold the bus to a man who was more than a buddy, he was a dear, dear friend. And he was out there on a motorcycle one day, enjoying himself, the way he always did, and suddenly had a terrible heart attack and killed himself on a car. But that was the end of that. And that's where I used to go every year with him up to his place up in Alaska. And I drove the bus up there, we had a ball, and you'd see all the bear and the moose and everything else on the way. And this is what you learn about. It's just like people in an airplane. Some of them close the windows. I keep my window open because I want to see my country. I want to see what it's all about. I want to see where they're having a fire or something. My God, you can be part of it. And this is what the country's all about. This is the beauty of seeing America, even from an airplane. But these people close it like they read a newspaper sometime when they're walking and going along in an automobile. I can't imagine not looking out there and seeing the greenery, the beautiful part of what the hell we living in. You gotta have a little bit of this before you can really enjoy it. And I beg you, please pass the word. Don't close your windows. Leave them open. Look at your country. Look at the whole world around you. You'd be surprised what you can see. It's a wonderful, wonderful country.
I think that's a beautiful way to end this Q&A.